She the queen, yeah, that's Queen Esquire. Legal trouble, she getting you out the fire. Another day and she solving another case, cause she litigate with dignity and grace. She the queen, yeah, that's Queen Esquire. Legal trouble, she getting you out the fire. Another day and she solving another case, cause she litigate with dignity and grace.
Hey Barbie, Chloe, period I, period 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 period. Got my name up in your mouth, you don't know no better. Don't forget I'm from the south, yeah, I got them headers. You watching everything I do, studying all of my moves. Wish you could do what I do. Period I, period period I, period period I, period period I, period period.
Hello, opinionators and litigators. Court is now in session. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you've had a lovely Sunday so far. Today, we are gathered here today on more grim yet sad situation that occurred just this past week. It's very tragic. If anybody has seen this young lady, you guys are probably familiar with her. Virginia Giuffree. Oh man, there's so many different factors to unfold in this tragedy, but Virginia Giuffree was a 41-year-old American. She was born in California, eventually moved and relocated to Australia with her husband that she had married there, Mr. Giuffree. That's where she gets her last name from. Her original name is Virginia Roberts, and then she married Mr. Giuffree, which we'll get into, and eventually moved to Australia with him, had children with him. But this young lady suffered a lot of I can't say the word, you guys, essay abuse throughout her life. Early on, even before she met Jeffrey Epstein. I know a lot of people are familiar with her because she is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and his assistant, Virginia Giuffree, which is interesting. Virginia has the same last name, too. Wait, no, sorry, not Virginia Giuffree. Sorry, she's a victim. Sorry, I said that wrong. She's a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. She basically blew the whistle on him, and he was arrested back in 2019 where he took his life. This story is so tragic because allegedly people say Jeffrey Epstein took his life, but there's a lot of questionable circumstances surrounding that when he was arrested. So I still don't believe he took his life, but that's a whole different story. But it's sad. This young lady suffered a lot, and she suffered, not only was she dealt with the sexual abuse or essay abuse throughout her childhood, even before she met Epstein. But when she got married, she eventually, during her later years, she lost her children. She was facing a divorce. So she was dealing with, and she also was being bullied on her social media. A lot of people are online bullying this woman who was an advocate, a very well-known spokesperson and advocate against victims of sexual abuse. So I want to delve into her story and pay tribute to her because she suffered a lot, and there's a lot of conspiracy surrounding her. I believe she was planning to take her life back in the end of March, which was when she posted on her Instagram, she posted a very suspicious message saying that she was hit by a bus and that she was in the hospital and she was suffering kidney failure and she had 4 days to live, which was later determined, when we'll talk about later, it was determined that story was fabricated. It wasn't as big of an accident as she alleged. In fact, there was a witness there that said they saw her and the other individual involved, who was a 71-year-old woman, drive away from the scene fine without having to go to the hospital. So it appears though the picture that she had on social media, which we'll go and look at that picture throughout this story, was actually a fabricated picture. It wasn't an actual picture of a scene or anything. It looked like she had makeup on her face and was making it appear as though she was in the hospital. And so it looks as though, in my opinion, it was a cry for help back in March 30th when she posted that picture that we'll talk about. and she had already been planning to take her life, but she wanted to settle her affairs. One thing she wanted to do is say goodbye to her kids, because she had lost hope when she lost her kids and was also facing a very nasty divorce. And she wanted to say her final goodbyes and also say her goodbyes on social media. And she wanted to make it appear as though, um, she wasn't taking her life. There's other conspiracies around it that whether she did even take her life in the first place. For example, months before she actually was alleged to have taken her life, she stated in a post that she would never take her life. She said, "In no way, shape, or form am I, suicidal." Basically, she's saying that if anybody had took her life, it was someone else that had took her life. She posted that before this happened. There was some weeks before, months before, she posted that on social media, that she was not going to take her life. That if that were to happen, it would be someone else who did it. So that's also a question as whether she actually did take her life. Also, in the midst of this messy divorce, she also was undergoing severe domestic violence from her husband and was in and out of court regarding the domestic violence. So there's a question as to whether her husband is involved in her death. This whole story is very, very sketchy and very sad. So I want to get into it. Let's actually start by just getting a background story of who she was and her later years. And I think Daily Mail does a good job of telling her story, kind of where she came from and so forth. A lot of people aren't really familiar with her. But let's just go into that background about who she was and so forth. Sorry about these weird ads on here. I don't know why they do that. But anyways, let's get into that. How's everybody doing? And also, I encourage you to post in the comments, be active, because I like to talk back and forth about these tragedies. So Virginia Giuffree, she's the most prominent alleged victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew. She was found dead or deceased just this past week at age 41 years old. She was a prominent victim of sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, who died by suicide on Friday. She was only 41 years old. The American-born mother of three was found dead at her farm in Nirgeby, Austria, where she has been living for the past several years, NBC News reported. Her tragic ending came after a life of tireless advocacy on behalf of herself and other alleged victims of Epstein sex crimes. Giuffree was born in California in 1983 and was shattered by a grade schooler when she was actually abused by a man her family knew. So she actually was dealing with sexual abuse before she met Epstein. And that's what made her a prominent victim of Epstein, because they targeted a young lady who had already been a victim, so she was already emotionally vulnerable. And they used her vulnerabilities to target her and manipulate her into being a further victim in this instance. She spent time as a runaway, was shuffled through foster homes. She lived on the streets at just age 14. So you can see this young lady started out her life in very rough circumstances. It seems like this young lady, 41 years, was never ending suffering. And she just got tired, I think. I think she just was tired. She was left all alone. By the time she took her life, she was all alone. She lost her husband. She lost her kids. She was being bullied online. She had suffered years and years of sexual abuse and mockery from people online. I think she gave up. She was forced into ex-trafficking by Miami ex-trafficker Ron Eppinger. That's another person that was also trafficking her in Miami at just age 14. Can you believe this? 14-year-old minor already suffering as a victim. This is so sad. Eventually, Giuffree got free of Eppinger, reunited with her father, Sky, according to Miami Herald. At 16 in mid-2000s, her father was working in maintenance at Mar-a-Lago. You guys already know that is the private club owned by Donald Trump. So her father was working there, and he was able to get her a job as a locker room attendant. So she's trying to get her life right. She had already suffered 2 years of being trafficked by another sick man. And so can you believe it? As she's trying to heal from that, now she's given a job opportunity that lands her with another predator. They said that's when she met just oh goodness, this lady's name. Just Lane. I'm going to say Miss Maxwell because these names are getting on my nerve, y'all. Miss Maxwell, the daughter of Robert Maxwell, a former member of a publisher of several British newspapers. So that is sad. This girl went from one predator to another. So here's a picture of her in her later years. Virginia Giuffree, one of the public faces and advocates for the victims of historical pedophile and ex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, died on Friday. She was 41 years old. That's so sad. Okay. Here's how she looked in her younger years when she was suffering as a victim. This is her, let's see what age she was. An undated handout photo taken at an undisclosed location released December 2nd, 2021 by the United States District County for the Southern District of New York shows Virginia Giuffree. It's a picture of her there. Giuffree said that Maxwell offered her the opportunity to work as a massage therapist for Esptein. So again, they were kind of slowly working her up to this. They were setting her up, basically thinking she's getting a job opportunity when in reality their whole underlying sick intent was to use her as a victim, basically. They seemed like nice people, so I trusted them. I told them I'd had a really hard time in my life up until then. I'd be a runaway. I'd be actually abused, physically abused, she told the BBC. That was the worst thing I could have told them because now they knew how vulnerable I was. It's so sad. You have to be careful when you're a victim of, certain things in your life. Be careful who you share that information with because people who have ill intentions will utilize your vulnerabilities to further make you a victim. There's sick people out there, so sometimes you have. I would say, if you're going through situations like this, share it with a therapist, not with someone, you may think you can trust who's really trying to prey upon you and your vulnerabilities. Esptein and Maxwell groomed her to actually service both of them, as well as other clients. She said in an interview in a sworn court affidavit. She claimed in 2011 that she was trafficked to Prince Andrew on 3 occasions by Esptein and Maxwell, the first time when she was 17. The Duke of York has consistently and vehemently denied her claims as convicted ex-offender Maxwell, who Giuffree claims acted on Epstein's behalf. Esptein died in a New York prison in 2019, which also we question that whether he really just took his life in that situation. He's a very powerful man that dealt with a lot of powerful people who had been involved in these, trafficking incidents. And I think a lot of people wanted to silence him. So I don't really think he took his life. But that's my opinion. It started with one and it trickled into two, so on. Before you know it, I'm being lent out to politicians and academics and royalty, she said. She named many of these prominent men in a civil suit, the records from which were unsealed in 2019. So here's her in a photo with Prince Andrew and Maxwell. Again, that's so sick. Look how this guy has his hand on this young girl's waist. And look where his other hand is. It just shows to me, what he was already doing with this girl. That is so sad. Giuffree has claimed she was actually abused by Prince Andrew at the behest of Epstein's associate, jailed British socialite Maxwell when she was just 17. And this is a photo of her when she was just a teenager. Oh, this is disgusting, Here's a photo of her when she basically came out and spoke about this in 2019, which was very brave of her to advocate and speak against the abuse she faced because it saved a lot of future victims because of her bravery. A lot of people are conspiring and saying that they think that she was unalive due to her advocacy, but I have questions about this. Number one, she took her life, or Epstein took his life, or allegedly Epstein was unalive in 2019, as well as Maxwell being arrested. So that her taking her life was at least 6 years after this happened. So I don't know. I question why would they wait this long if it really was connected to her advocacy. I feel like she really was suffering some depression. And also, I do feel as though she had other people that wanted her out. You know what I mean? And one, including her ex-husband, who she had alleged was committing domestic violence. So it's sad that she had a lot of people that wanted her out of here. You know what I mean? Giuffree Center holds a news conference outside of Manhattan Court in New York in 2019. Here's the last photo she posted online. Again, it looks like she posted this as if she was in the hospital, saying that she was dying and she had 4 days to live. I really question that. We're going to go into that post and some of the comment people said in there because it was very disturbing. People were bullying her. They said a lot of disturbing things to her. And imagine her already in a very depressed state, reading those type of comments. It could have drove her even more into a state of depression and her not wanting to be here because she had already lost everything. She was literally all alone after years and years and years of suffering. So this says here, they included former governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson. Wow. So he was also alleged to have actually abused her. Hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, modeling agent Jean Brunel, and attorney Alan, and I'm not going to say his last name, y'all. These last names got to go. I'm telling you. Okay. So all of these individuals who allegedly targeted this girl have publicly and vehemently denied the allegations. Brunel, who faced decades of allegations of sexual abuse, died from the parent taking his life in 2022. This is crazy, guys. These individuals who were accused of, you know what, essaying her around her are alleged to have taken their life. I don't know if they're taking their life or if someone's taking these people out because they know something, but this is a crazy story how all three people, at least three people in this tragedy have taken their life. Wow. Wow. What a tragedy in this whole situation. She was told to recruit even more girls at one point. So they were trying to have her recruit other victims. Wow. And at one point, she started to travel with Esptein and Maxwell, as is documented on the infamous flight logs of Espstein's so-called Lolita Express. She finally broke free of Esptein and Maxwell in 2002 when Giuffree was on a massage training course in Thailand, paid by Esptein, with the expectations she would bring back a specific girl for him. That's where she met Australian Robert Giuffree and married him shortly thereafter. So that was the person that Robert Giuffree is the guy she married. And eventually, shortly before her death, she was in the process of divorcing. She had 3 kids by him, actually. She lost those kids. So she was suffering from losing her kids to the system and losing her husband. Imagine. And also being a victim of SA. It's a lot on one woman. Giuffree came forward publicly after an initial investigation in 2005 ended in an 18-month Florida jail term for Esptein, who made a secret deal to avoid federal prosecution by pleading guilty, instead to relatively minor state-level charges of soliciting prostitution. He was released in 2009. Wow. So he made a deal, and he spent time in jail since 2009 and was released in 2009. That is crazy. He looked like he was a predator too, because Robert Giuffree looked way older than her. In the picture of her and him, I'll show you a picture. She attempted to tell her story in subsequent lawsuits against her alleged abusers. The men, including Esptein, Prince Andrew, denied the allegations, and they just tried to challenge her credibility. She acknowledged changing some details of her account, including the age at which she first met Esptein. So I wonder what was the real age then, because they're saying she lied about her age. So this is a picture of Robert Giuffree, her husband, that she married. That's a picture of her. I don't know. They look like similar ages in this picture. I wonder what was the age difference between these two, because I know she didn't look like this was like a later picture of her and him. She finally broke free of Esptein and Maxwell in 2002 when Giuffree was on a massage training course in Thailand, paid for by Esptein. with the expectation she was supposed to bring back another girl. She was supposed to bring back another victim. Thank God she did not. Okay, she met this Australian Robert Giuffree and married him shortly thereafter. I don't know how old he was. I wonder if he was like her age or not. I have questions. But many parts of her story was supported by documents, witness testimony, and photos, including one of her and Andrew with his arm around her bare midriff in the Maxwell London townhouse. And I showed you that picture earlier where you see his arm was around her waist and kind of the other arm was near another part of her body. It just seemed kind of weird to me. A 17-year-old girl, come on now, that's just sick. Something's wrong with that picture as it is, okay? Giuffree said in one of her lawsuits that she had X, and I'm not going to say I just say X instead of the word because of YouTube guidelines, but X with the royal 3 times. So she claimed she had relations with Andrew 3 times, y'all, in London during her 2001 trip. Wow. And that's 17 years old doing that. Dang, this is crazy, the stuff this girl went through. At Epstein's New York mansion when she was 17 and in the Virginia Islands when she was 18. Ghislaine said, I want you to do for him what you do to Epstein. Did you see that? Ew. So I told you they were like training this girl. They heard that she was a victim already of SA. Remember, as a teenager, before she even met Epstein, they used that to now further prey upon her and her vulnerabilities and basically give her a job of massaging so that they can groom her into being trafficked by all of these prominent figures. It's disgusting, right? Disgusting. Andrew categorically rejected Giuffree's allegations and said he didn't recall having met her. Even though he denied all this, guys, he paid thousands of dollars, I would say millions of dollars, to shut her up. So clearly it was true, in my humble opinion. His denials blew up in his face during a November 2019 BBC interview. Viewers saw a prince who issued rebuttals, such as disputing Giuffree's recollection of a sweaty dancing by saying he was medically incapable of perspiring. How is he medically incapable of perspiring? Wow. Everybody perspires. That doesn't make sense. And he showed no empathy for the women who said Epstein abused him. That's sick. It just shows that he was a callous man. He settled with Giuffree. Look, he settled with Giuffree in 2022. 22, y'all. That was 3 years ago. For an undisclosed sum, agreeing to make a substantial donation to her survivors organization. This right here shows his consciousness of guilt. The fact that he settled with her right here shows that he was guilty. There's no reason to settle if you really are telling the truth. He just wanted her to quiet up and shut up about what he did, so he paid her to do that. It's so disgusting. A statement filed in court said that the prince acknowledged Epstein was an ex-trafficker and Giuffree an established victim of abuse. Wow, guys. So Prince acknowledged that Epstein was a trafficker and he was associated with Epstein, and that Virginia also established as a victim of abuse. So he is acknowledging here in a statement in court that what she said was true. So she clearly wasn't lying. And here you can see, oh shoot, sorry guys. I don't know what just happened here. Sorry, I'm gonna have to redo this and something happened. Hang tight, everybody, hang tight. I gotta reshare this. Something happened. This is so tragic, guys. Okay, where are we at? So she posted this online. Here it is, this disturbing picture of prominent figures, one that we know very, very well. And Donald Trump is pictured here with Epstein. I wonder if he secretly paid her not to say anything, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. Okay. So at 16 in mid-2000, her father was working in maintenance at Mar-a-Lago Resort, the private club owned by Donald Trump. Suspicious. Her father got her a job as a locker room attendant, and that's when she met Miss Maxwell, Epstein's madame, and sometime girlfriend. So yeah, very suspicious. Here is a photo of her when she was speaking In an interview with BBC in 2019 about what had happened to her. And she also was posting a picture of her as a teenager when she was being abused by Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell and Prince Andrew, among others. The men and Maxwell have denied any wrongdoing, which, again, I don't believe them. Okay. She also filed, in at least some cases, settled lawsuits against Epstein and others connected to him. In one case, she dropped her claims against a prominent U.S. attorney, saying she might have erred in identifying himself as one of the men to whom Epstein supplied her. So she retracted her statement about a U.S. attorney. So it's understandable. She was already in her late 30s, I guess, when she came out and talked about this. So it's understandable that she might have, you know, forgot certain facts and details and got certain things incorrectly. And also, victims of SA, they try to bury their memories of this tragedy as best they can. So they try to go on with life by forgetting the tragedy, that bury it down into their memory so that they don't have to remember it, which I believe probably could have led to her getting some of the facts wrong. Epstein taking his life put an end to his accusers' hopes of holding him criminally accountable. Maxwell was convicted in 2021 on federal sex trafficking and conspiracy charges and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. And she said she was not to blame for Epstein's abuse, which is false because she was one of the facilitators. She was the main person that groomed this young lady. Prosecutors elected to not include Giuffree's allegations in Maxwell's case, but Giuffree later told the court that the British socialite had opened the door to hell. Wow. Yeah, so like I was saying, Giselle tries to claim up and down she's innocent, but she was a bridge to leading towards this young lady being trafficked. Giuffree founded advocacy charity SOAR in 2019 after settling with Prince Andrew out of court in 2023 for an undisclosed amount rumored to be in the millions. Wow, so she settled pretty large amount with Prince Andrew, guys, in the millions. She lived a fairly quiet life with her husband, Robert, and her 3 children. So imagine this woman had millions and millions of dollars, and she still wasn't happy. People think that just because you have money, that cures all of the suffering and pain that someone goes through. And money does not. This is proof of it, because she settled for millions of dollars and still had been suffering. And at the time, she still was married to her husband, and had her 3 kids. But things had slowly started to dismantle in her life. And it was so much things that she was suffering all at once that she, I believe, planned this at the end of March and wanted to create a story as if she was dying by fabricating and dramatizing a very minor accident that happened weeks before she took her life. So in recent weeks, she had made troubling posts on social media, including a spate of hospital admissions, a quad bike accident. So she claimed that she had suffered fatal injuries, and basically a bus had hit her while she was riding her bike, and she ended up hospitalized and was basically had lost function of her kidneys and was dying, and they gave her 4 days to live, which that story turned out to be fabricated, which I'll show you a post that supports that it wasn't actually a true. She did get hit by a bus, but it wasn't as dramatized as she made it in the post, basically. I think she was trying to create a story of what actually occurred to cover up what her original plan was to take her life. She was already planning this out. So she described it as a near fatal in post, including March 30th missive saying she had 4 days to live. So here you can see this is the photo that she posted, the very last post on her Instagram, which will go to her Instagram, and we'll read that post in detail and the comments in there, because there were a lot of disturbing comments from people that I think also further caused her an emotional downbreak, because she already was alone. She had lost her 3 children that she loved dearly, that kept her alive, basically, I believe. And she lost her husband that she had been with for, over a decade, I would say. So, over a decade. So You can see here the photo in the background. It looks like she's on a hospital bed, right? People are saying this photo looks like she had put makeup on her face here, because what people are saying is that she actually drove away. Fine. And so this is the post here. Again, we're going to get into this post later. But here she says, this year has been the worst start in a new year. You see that? So she had already been feeling so much agony and pain. She said, but I won't bore anyone with the details, but I think it important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 km as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. In recent weeks, she had made troubling posts on social media, including a spat of hospital admissions, a quad bike accident, and her claims had been in her claims that she had 4 days to live. And here's a photo after she had passed away of her and her brother and some other unknown man. That's her brother, and she's pictured in the middle. He posted this to pay tribute to her on social media by displaying a photo of him and his sister, just pay respects to her after she had passed away. She said, I've gone into kidney failure. This is what she posted in that post. We're going to read it again when we go to the post on Instagram. But what she said, that very last post on March 30th, is that she had gone into kidney failure, renal failure, and they had given me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology, she wrote. Giuffree was discharged from a hospital a week after she made the post. She was listed to face the magistrate judge on April 9th on a domestic violence charge. It was not required to appear in person and stayed away. So you see that she's also dealing with domestic violence. This girl has been suffering her whole freaking life. Like I said, throughout her teenage years, she was sexually abused. And then now in her later years, she's experiencing domestic violence. It's like she never can catch a break in this world. She was constantly suffering. Like she felt like she had absolutely no one there for her. The following day, she was spotted by Daily Mail Australia photographer, where she flipped her middle finger as her brother Danny Wilson drove off in the $150,000 Chevrolet Silverado they were traveling in. So she looked just perfectly fine the next day after she posted on March 30th. So she didn't have 4 days to live, as she had claimed. I think it was a secret. Like I said, that post was a secret way of crying out to the public to say that she was going to be planning to take her life, and that she was giving herself a time frame of things she wanted to accomplish before that, which was to say goodbye to her children. That was the real last thing that was keeping her alive for these previous weeks. She wanted to at least get a hold of them, tell them how much she loved them, and then she was going to tragically leave this earth. And I think she just wanted to fabricate this story on March 30th to make it appear as if those was a natural death. It's sad. It kind of reminds me of Chesley Chris. When Chesley Chris took her life, her last post was, "May this day give you rest and peace." And in this instance, Virginia posts about a fabricated, dramatized accident to claim as though it was going to take her life and she had 4 days to live, when reality is she was giving herself a certain amount of time to live. And she had a checklist of what she wanted to do before she had done that. You see here, April 9th, she was spending time with her brother. So I feel like she was trying to spend time with her family members, her kids, people she loved before she was going to leave this earth. That's what I feel. According to her father, Sky Roberts, his daughter was going through a messy divorce. See that? This woman had been suffering back to back and no longer lives with Robert, her husband of 22 years. So not only that she had escaped years and years of sexual abuse and trafficking, but the man that, in her mind, rescued her from this trauma, married her and had children with, now she was going through a very messy, traumatic divorce with this man and going in and out of court due to domestic violence. This woman could not catch a break. She had 41 years of suffering on this earth, And the only thing that was keeping her alive were her three children, who she eventually lost those three children to. Imagine the hell this woman had gone through. She had gave up on life and made a plan to leave this earth last month. Sad. So sad. Having recently separated, they no longer live together at their lavish 1.9 million mansion in Perth beachside suburb. So you see that? So now she's living all alone. She doesn't have the kids she loves. She doesn't have the husband she felt like rescued her from the trauma she had faced. And she just had a minor accident by a bus. And she's facing bullying online by really mean, insensitive people. She gave up. She just couldn't take it anymore. 2 days before the crash, on March 22nd, Giuffree posted a sun-drenched picture of her children on a beach, accompanied by an apparent desperate plea to see them. You see this? She hadn't seen her kids either. The three human beings that kept this woman and gave her hope to live, now they're gone, taken from her. That, I believe, was one of the last straws for her on this earth. If she can't have her kids, and those are the three human beings that kept her alive, she didn't want to be here anymore. It was just too much stress on this young woman, too much factors that played into her deciding this fatal decision. And again, we really don't even know if she took her life. I mean, the family says that, but I wonder, there's also the domestic violence claim against her husband. He had a motive as well. So there's questions. But with all the factors going towards her depression, the loss of her children, the messy divorce from a man she'd been with for decades, the years of trafficking and sexual abuse, the years of bullying online, this woman, I believe, was tired of suffering. She said, "My beautiful babies have no clue how much I love them, and they're being poisoned with lies," she posted. "I miss them so very much. I've been through hell and back in my 41 years. You see that? That's a confession from her. She is confessing the reasons why she doesn't want to be here anymore. And this was March 22nd. Like I said, everything, it was like icing on the cake last month. It was just her final straw. All of these factors came tumbling down on her, and she could not take it anymore. It was like the final straw for her. All these years and years and years of suffering. Now you lose your kids and you're losing your husband. She couldn't take it anymore. She said, "I've been through hell and back in my 41 years, but this is incredibly hurting me worse than anything else." You see those key words. This woman was crying out back on March 22nd. "This is incredibly hurting me more and worse than anything else." Like I said, the loss of her children was her final straw. You see how she said, "Hurt me, abuse me, but don't take my babies." When she had lost her kids, guys, that was her final straw. If she can't have her kids, she had made that final determination that she didn't want to be here anymore, because she had suffered her whole life of being abused by different men, trafficked throughout her teenage years. Then the man that she'd been with for decades leaves her in this messy divorce. And then she suffers domestic violence. And now the three kids that she loved, she said, "I could take the abuse. I could take all the things I'm dealing with, but take my babies, I can't take that. I can't handle that." She said, "My heart is shattered every day that passes. My sadness only deepens." This woman had already been crying out last month, telling people that she was suffering, and no one saw the signs that this woman was already at her last breaking point and had already made up in her mind that she did not want to be on this earth because of the suffering. And each day she was without those children, the sadness, the despair, the hopelessness began to further cloud her judgment and began to feed into her mindset to take her life. It was like a pile of bricks that kept piling upon her, causing her to suffer each day more and more and more, where she became a point where she could no longer handle all of the pressures of depression on her. It was also revealed that Giuffree had been listed to face court 10 days before the crash over the alleged breach of a family violence restraining order. You see that? So she was going to face court for breaching a family violence restraining order. This woman had court issues. Oh my God. She was facing litigation about family domestic violence. She's facing losing her kids. This was so much on this woman. She just couldn't take it. On Friday, her family announced that she had died by taking her life at age 41. It is with utterly broken heart that we announce that Virginia passed away last night at her farm in Western Australia. Her family said in a statement, she lost her life to taking her life after being a lifelong victim of sexual abuse and trafficking. Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and trafficking. She was the light that lifted so many survivors, the statement said. In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle in its weight. But they forget to include that not only the toll of abuse, but the loss of her husband, the loss of her 3 children also was her final straw. Because she could, like she even mentioned, she's basically telling everybody why she took her life. She said, I could take the hurt, I could take the abuse, I could withstand that, because this woman had been in therapy for the abuse that she had faced. She already had been dealing with her pain and trauma, having a regular therapist. What took her soul was losing her children. That was it for her. If she could not have her kids, she felt like she didn't want to live here anymore. This woman had strength, she had tenacity, she had willpower, but there was so much loss surrounding this woman, and the very 3 children that kept her fighting each day was stripped from her. And then not only that, these kids didn't want anything to really do with her because the kids were being manipulated and lied to by whoever had custody. I'm not sure I think the husband had custody of the 3 kids, and so he was basically lying to these kids, telling the kids how horrible the mother is and don't be associated with her because she's this, that, and the other. And so the kids being manipulated began to feel like their mother was the problem and didn't want to be around their mother. And I think she might have broke those restraining orders trying to get a hold of her kids, and now she's facing court repercussions for violating those restraining orders. So imagine all the suffering that she's dealing with that had been piling and piling and piling upon her during her last days, where she finally had been experiencing the demonic attacks on her life and had no hope. And she's sitting in this house where she had millions of dollars of wealth around her, but none of that wealth could cure her pain of loss, substantial loss, and loneliness and despair. Okay, so that's what she was dealing with. In the end, like they said, that's what took her life. An attorney for Giuffree said in a statement, her courage pushed me to fight harder. Her strength was awe-inspiring. The world has lost an amazing human being today. Rest in peace, my sweet angel. Giuffree's brother, Danny Wilson, paid tribute to his sister on Facebook with a sweet photo and a pair of him and her with another man. She's seen smiling at the camera with her arm around her brother. Wilson also changed his cover photo on Facebook to a photo of Perth at a sunset in an apparent tribute to his sister's passing. So I wanted to show you guys something here before we get into some of this other stuff here. So I remember I told you guys, and I'm kind of going back and forth and bouncing around on things. Oh, God, what happened here? Wonder if you guys can see my screen. Sorry about that, guys. So I want to see if you guys can see this. But here, this post was very telling. So remember I told you the very last post that Virginia posted was about her suffering this very very, very traumatic accident where she was basically riding her bicycle and was hit by a bus. So we're going to get into that post, but right now I want to read this. Okay, so let's read this first. This says Virginia Giuffree. It says Virginia Giuffree was apparently involved in a collision with a school bus on March 24th, and then publicly shared that she only has 4 days left to live on her Instagram on March 31st. And I think by then she had given up on life by then. It said there was no part of this story that appeared genuine from the offset. And a lot of people in the comments had been questioning her story. They said that they had not heard anything in the news about this accident. And usually in Australia, if there's a big accident with a bus, as she alleged was this very severe accident, usually it's published and discussed in the news, and there were no news outlets talking about it. So anyway, she said there was no part of this story that appeared genuine from the outset. Media outlets instantly reported that only a minor crash had occurred, and Virginia Giuffree was not registered at any hospital within her local vicinity in Australia. The image of a badly bruised up Virginia Giuffree also looked fabricated, meaning they said she put makeup on to make it look like it was a gruesome accident. And the driver of the bus had a very different version of events. You see that? They said Mr. Munn said he and the 71-year-old woman swapped details, including phone numbers, and were both able to drive away afterwards. So she was able to drive away from the accident, but he decided to report the incident to the police as he felt the circumstances were a little bit suspect. On Wednesday, April 2nd, Virginia's spokesperson made a statement saying that she was in fact not dying. So you see that she was in fact not dying. So she had been claiming that she was dying. I think she was emotionally dying. She was emotionally giving up upon life. But again, she used this post to make it appear as though she was dying from the accident. Okay, so she made a statement saying, Virginia's spokesperson made a statement saying that she was in fact not dying and had made a mistake and was not aware that she had posted it publicly, which is quite obviously a pretty big mistake to make. I don't think it was a mistake. I think she was suffering spiraling in mental pain and had, in my opinion, intentionally posted that because it was her last outcry. It was her last public attempt to let people know that she was suffering emotionally and that she had already been planning to take her life. So the entire situation was apparently blown out of proportion and entirely false, meaning it had no substance and was a diversion away from something else, which was likely everything that is natural, meaning everything that is symbolic in nature and the current season and cycle of time. To understand the symbolic nature of why the mind-altering media are publishing Virginia Giuffree at this current moment in time, we need to look at the seasons and cycles of procession. April 1st, I noticed many people wishing each other Happy New Year. Okay, I don't know if this rest of this stuff has anything to do with it. I think they're going into like spiritual stuff here, which I don't want to read, but I read this post just to let you know that this story that she said was not really what happened. She basically dramatized it and made it appear as though it was more worse than it really was. And here's an actual article about the crash. So bus driver in crash that left Virginia Giuffree with 4 days to live gives very different version of events. This is the actual article of what she was saying. So Virginia claimed it was this dramatic event that she was dying in 4 days, but the bus driver said that's not what happened. Rose Munn speaks out after Prince Andrew accuser posted photos from hospital bed claiming she was close to death after being hit by a school bus. You have to ask, traveling at 1:10 km. They were saying something didn't add up. She basically was fabricating this story. So, oh goodness, something just happened there, guys. Let me go back. Sorry about that. We lost the article there. This article shows you here that she really wasn't dying as she claimed. She was more so fabricating this story as a cry for help, basically. So she claimed in her post that she was close to death after being hit by a school bus traveling 1:10 km. Okay. The school bus driver involved in a road crash. Oh God, what is this? Keeps doing this weird thing that it just, I don't know what is going on. I'm going to try one more time. And if it doesn't work, then I'm probably just going to have to give it up because it keeps going away when I start reading the article. We'll try one more time, guys. Sorry about this. Something going on with the article. Okay. The school bus driver involved in a road crash with Prince Andrew's accuser, Virginia Giuffree, said left her with 4 days to live, has cast doubts over her version of events. Rosemond, in an interview, contradicted Miss Giuffree's account of the incident and insisted that the crash was in a minor collision with his bus. So he claims it was very minor. Miss Giuffree, a trafficking victim of Jeffrey Epstein, posted to Instagram posted a picture of her badly bruised face on Instagram on Sunday, claiming she was close to death and had been hit by a school bus traveling 1:10 km. Her spokesperson confirmed on Wednesday that Giuffree is not dying, and she had made a mistake and insisted that she was not intended to make the Instagram post public. You see this? There's no way she made a mistake. She took time to write that post for a reason. Okay? She posted that as a way to tell people indirectly that she was planning to take her life. She had already thought about this back on March 30th when she posted it. She was already planning to end her life. And she wanted to tell people, but she wanted to blame it on a bus accident because she really was not, she didn't want people to know her real underlying intent, which was to take her life, basically. Now the bus driver has spoken out on the crash. He said took place around 3 p.m. on Monday last week, describing Miss Giuffree's claims and the circumstance of the crash. He said it was all blown out of proportion, and I know what happened. I didn't even see her in the car. Also, she was in a car that got hit. Miss Munns said that the crash occurred after he had followed a slow-moving white car for 3 km before deciding to overtake when it went under 75 km, and it was safe for him to pass it. He told the Mail that the small white Toyota Highlander involved in the collision was driven by a 71-year-old woman who he believed to be Miss Giuffree's carrier. Okay, so there was a 71-year-old woman that was driving Miss Giuffree around. Giuffree wasn't the one actually driving the car, basically. She had like an assistant that was driving her. So here's a picture of the bus driver here, Mr. Munns, the bus driver allegedly involved in the crash with Virginia Giuffree. This is the fake fabricated picture of her. It looks like makeup that's on her face to make it look like she has bruises. He said he had no recollection of Miss Giuffree being in the Toyota, but a police report in the incident later stated that a woman aged 41 was a passenger. So she was a passenger in the car. Mr. Munn said he began his maneuver only for the car to suddenly start turning right in front of him. So it looks like they both were trying to pass each other. Mr. Munn, school bus driver for 16 years, who had around 29 children on board at the time, said that he beeped his horn but couldn't avoid clipping the car and damaging its taillight in what he described as a minor collision. So it was a very minor collision. He just barely kind of nipped the rear of her bumper, rear of her taillight. He said he immediately stopped and went to check on the car driver, who had also pulled over and was satisfied that she was not hurt. So the bus driver got out the car. He checked the driver. She was not hurt. He didn't even speak to the other lady in the car, which was Virginia Giuffree. Mr. Munn said that he and the 71-year-old woman swapped details, including phone numbers, and were both able to drive away afterwards. But he decided to report the incident to police as he felt the circumstances were a little bit sus, which he was smart for doing because then later Virginia fabricated the story. Because again, I think she wanted to use this as a way to cover up her real underlying intent, which was her initial underlying plan to take her life. She had already been selling her fares and she was planning to end her life because of all the things that she had been dealing with. And her final straw was losing her 3 children that she had loved and had been fighting to live for, despite all the things that she had been suffering. She had been trying to take care of her mental health. She had been in therapy, but all of the subsequent loss had been too much. Mr. Munn said that he later telephoned the driver as a courtesy to say he had reported the accident, and she rang him back the next day to say there had been a passenger in the car who had suffered a black eye. So they're saying Virginia suffered a black eye. Seems like they're trying to get money off this guy. The grandfather from Lancelin near Perth said he was horrified to see Miss Giuffree's Instagram post claiming that she had been injured when a school bus had plowed into her car at speed of 110 km/h, as buses in Western Australia are restricted to a top speed of 100 km. So she had fabricated this story and made it look as though he had been going faster than he really was. And this man had been a long-term veteran of driving. He had 29 kids in the bus. There's no way he'd be driving at that high rate of speed when kids are in the bus. Okay, so again, her allegations were fabricated. And you have to ask, why would she make up the story? Why would she go through all this extreme? Again, this woman was a depressed woman who had lost everything and was planning to take her life, basically. Miss Giuffree was injured in a collision near Perth, Australia last month. Oh, God. They did it again, guys. They did it again. They keep doing this weird pop-up thing where, oh, gosh. Okay, yeah, did it again. But can't you see how sad this is? That this woman had been trying to fabricate a story that she had suffered this major accident weeks before she takes her life. Okay. This is crazy. Western Australia police said they received one report of a minor crash between school bus and a car in near Gabby, about 12 miles north of Perth on March 24th. The collision was reported by the bus driver the following day. While there was no reported injuries, a police spokeswoman said a previous statement from Ms. Giuffree's representative said, Virginia thanks everyone for the outpouring love and support. Yeah, so she had been making up stories, guys. She's overwhelmed with gratitude. Today she remains in serious condition while receiving medical care. Wow. Oh my God. They're saying she had serious conditions. I don't know. On March 24th in rural. Why does this thing keep jumping? Oh, there's on March 24th in rural Western Australia, a school bus hit the car in which she was riding. It said Virginia was banged up and bruised and returned home. Virginia's condition worsened and she was admitted to the hospital. Concerning her Instagram post, Virginia thought she had posted on her private Facebook page. Wow. So there's different versions of this. So she's saying she thought she had posted on her private Facebook page for her family to see and not the public, but I don't know. They're saying here, oh, interesting. Her case, okay, she and her husband were in their marriage of 22 years had recently broken down. They're no longer living together. The case was heard by a court on March 14th. Wow. She did not enter a plea, guys. So she was being charged with something. I think she was charged with breach of the restraining order, and she had a restraining order against her from the husband, I think, and the kids were taken away. Maybe she breached the restraining order to see her kids. Yeah, this was a lot on her. The statement from her family on Wednesday said she looks forward to defending herself. So she was facing criminal charges. It wasn't her husband that was being accused of the domestic violence. They were accusing her of domestic violence, and they filed a restraining order against her, and that's why her kids were taken from her. And she felt as though they were brainwashing her kids into thinking she was this bad person and had to stay away. And so she had breached that restraining order to try to see her kids. And so now she had been going to court facing a violation of a restraining order, a criminal charge. And so she didn't enter a plea at the time, but she was in the process of defending herself. And she felt like she had lost everything. She lost her kids, she lost her husband. And they said she was in hospital in serious condition. Ugh. Guys, there's so many questions about that, right? But let's look at her Instagram, because she had a whole different story than what the other bus driver had said. The bus driver could claim that it was a minor accident. Another thing is, this was not publicized in the news in Australia. Usually when there's a big accident, people will post an article about it. But in this instance, there wasn't. But on March 30th, she posted this on her Instagram. She posted this photo of her lying in a hospital bed, allegedly. You can see right here where the hospital this part right here looks like the bed that they're in. And then there's these alleged bruises here. Okay. So this seems to contradict what the bus driver said, but he never seen her in the car, which she was probably in the backseat as a passenger. So let's read what her version was on March 30th. She said, "This year has been the worst start to new year, but I won't bore anyone with the details. But I think it important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 km as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure." And again, you heard the bus driver say he wasn't going that fast because, again, he's driving 29 people. So the story is interesting, right? She said she'd gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live, transfer me to a specialist hospital in urology. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. You see that? She already wanted to leave this earth. She just wanted to see her kids, right? But you know what they say about wishes. SHAST in one hand and wish in the other. I guarantee it's still going to be, you know what I mean, the S word at the end of the day. Thank you for being the wonderful people of the world, for being a great part of my life. God bless you all. And this was the last post she ever posted, guys. She was basically telling people goodbye. This is so sad. Like I said, she knew she wasn't dying from the bus accident. This story was probably fabricated. This woman was depressed and hopeless, and she was suicidal at this time, and she was planning to take her life because of all the loss and losing her kids. Okay, look at what people are looking at the comments. So let's take a look at these comments, because the comments tell it all. They're very disturbing. This guy wrote here, he said, "All of you people on here that bullied her 3 weeks ago after she lost custody of her children, got into a crash, and you all must be so effing proud of yourself. She's gone now. I hope you're all happy." So when she posted this 3 weeks ago, people had been bullying her. Let's try to go down. Let's go down to like 3 weeks ago first, because you'll see what people post way before this happened and how horrible they were to her. They were so insensitive to her and just awful to her. I hope she didn't read these comments, because that would have drove her even further down into her spiraling depression. All these are like days ago. But I'm trying to get to the 3 weeks ago here. Okay, these are all like rest in peace, rest in peace. Where is the 3 weeks ago here? I don't know where they are. We'll read some of these that were recent, but I really want to read the ones from 3 weeks ago because you'll see that they were not really kind to her. Oh, goodness. How do we get all the way down? You have a lot of these disturbing people on here saying conspiracy theories and people giving their condolences. Here's some from 3 weeks ago. Let's read these first because these are the ones that I feel could have also affected her depression that she was dealing with. They said, well, considering there's no blue check mark, I sincerely doubt this account is the real Virginia, which I think it is her account because she has a lot of posts from her losing her kids and different things like that. So I think this is definitely her post. Anyway, she said, I heard the story. She had 4 days to live 10 days ago. She kept EG tag from the hospital. Terrible. If she lying about her health, she needs psychiatric help. I would hope she's not. And she did need psychiatric help. She was going through a lot, guys. I think also that she's facing court for a violation of restraining order. Of course, she put that up there too, probably to escape going to court because this woman was facing criminal charges for violating a restraining order. And I think she violated that order to go see her kids. Someone evil is probably doing stuff to her. Someone probably has hurt her again. You know, you can't go against the people who hurt you. And I still believe J.E. is alive and well. So some of these people are doing a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff. They have already negated this nonsense. The picture itself is proof of lying. The bus driver said it was not a big deal, no injuries. He hadn't known of this fairy tale. There's something fundamentally wrong with her. So the people are already questioning her story when she posted this 3 weeks ago. This person says, everyone needs to quit following her and responding. She feeds into your responses. When she has no followers, maybe she will seek real help instead of social counseling. So again, these people are like saying these horrible things to her before her death. She said, so are these bruises from her husband beating her. So again, she's facing, again, that the domestic violence incident. So they're saying, well, was she abused by her husband instead? Did he do this to her? And they said creepy lies. They said with all her prior abuse at the hands of Esptein, she should have recognized the signs in her husband, got herself and her babies out of there, and called the cops on his ass. So yeah, there was also allegations that her husband had been abusing her. So this person is posting about it. They said her parents lived nearby, so she had a place to go for support. She could have contacted the many friends she has in the Esptein Survivors Club. She was in no way alone without support. Oh, that's what somebody was saying 3 weeks before she took her life. They said, I hope this woman is okay. She has gone through it, but not having her children would be the greatest pain. And I'm praying for you, lady. So yeah, losing your kids is the greatest pain. Apparently she has kidney problems, but it's from her husband beating her. Oh my God. Okay, that's an allegation that someone said. Someone said her kidney issues had to do with what her husband had been doing with her, which was beating her, has led to this messy divorce, allegedly. Okay, because as we read earlier, she was going through a messy divorce, and there had been domestic violence claims against him, allegedly. Praying God wraps his arms and gives her a quick recovery. Even if you don't believe her, why so much hate? Do you feel good coming to someone's post and leaving so much vitriol? That says more about you and about who you are. No wonder we have a global epidemic of bullying. Most of you probably have children, and this is the example you lead. And this is sad, guys. Somebody said this 3 weeks ago. Are you still alive? That's so sad, the stuff they're saying. People are saying they think this is a photo of a dead person here. They're just saying a lot of sick stuff, right? God bless you, young lady. The power of prayer can go a long way. Someone says, this is so sad, but it is known fact that the royals practice some form of crafts under the palace. Has no one ever put two and two together? That poor lady was not going to get away with what she said. Queen Elizabeth made sure of it, as she did with Diana. So they're claiming she's another tragedy of the Princess Diana story, which I don't think that's true, but you know, the royals are cursed. It's going to come down to tumbling down, and the wrong people are being blamed about Diana. As much as I don't like Camilla, She is the fall guy here, but Charles knew very well what was going on. Okay, I don't want to read this. She was going to get arrested soon by the FBI for all the lies she told and the money she stole from Prince Andrew. Real gold digger. More, that's another bully. That's so cruel they said this to her. She had to read this. More lies. She just can't help herself. How does she know she has 4 days to live? All the best, Virginia. I think the whole thing is a hoax. She clearly isn't in the ICU. She doesn't have 4 days left. No doctor would say that. Her ex has custody of her kids, and I think it could be a manipulation. See that? There has been no reports of school bus accidents, and she is not registered at any of the hospitals. Per TMZ. Wow, guys, you see this? The ex had custody of the kids. And remember, he had a restraining order against her for some unknown reasons. So there's some more to the story than is being told about this woman. Because why did he get a restraining order against her? And why does he have custody, guys? This is crazy. And look at this sick person. 2 days to go. They're so sick. This was just on the news in the UK. That's what she said 3 weeks ago. They had updated news reports on this with the head of the Australian police depth saying no such severe crash was reported, just a minor one involving a school bus and car with approximately 2K of damages. Bus driver reported it the next day, well within the time frame, given no injuries were reported. And all the urology specialist hospitals within the area notified the police she's not listed as being a patient with them. Australian police went on record with this update in recent hours in a televised interview. I'm confused but waiting for more information on this, as clearly Virginia has got a lot of bruising on the photo. So they're saying that she was basically lying, okay? Somebody said here it was a scam. This person says, I call BS, that bruising is fake. It is a brown eyeshadow. Either she's trying to stay relevant or she's going to try to sue somebody again. And starting to wonder about the whole episode with PR Randy and Andy too. So now people are saying they don't believe her stories because she lies a lot, allegedly. That's what they're saying. These people are, wow. If this woman is in renal failure, her family should be suing the hospital because there are no IVs, no monitors, no lines, no machines, and where's her hospital gown? There is some tomfoolery going on here, and it's sick. So people were not buying her story when she posted this. She said 4 days to live, but you're posting a bruised and battered pic on social media for what? Attention? That's so horrible to say that to somebody who's saying they're going to die. I said, if I was unfortunate enough to have an accident this bad and given only 4 days to live, the last thing I'd be worried about would be posting on my IG. So very sad. Child, please. So people were not believing her. If it was posted by mistake on here and meant only for loved ones on Facebook privately, then why thank the people of the world for their support, right? So you remember her representatives claim that she meant to post this on her private Facebook page, but this person is calling BS on that story because they're saying, well, if she intended to only post it for her family, why would she think the whole world as if she's posting it publicly? So that story from the representative seems to be fabricated. Okay, she has lived 4 days. She has 4 days to live, and she's posting videos. So people are posting all this stuff. It's pretty crazy. He said, try sound therapy as it's known to enable miracles. Some people are saying stay positive. They said, I can't understand how anyone could slate this woman. I hope your children and grandchildren never go through the trauma of grooming, trafficking, abuse. The betrayal so much never leaves you. It seems money talks in this vile, wicked world. Regardless if you think this isn't a true post, think outside the box. Someone she knows could have posted it for her. Also think the media corrupt. Authorities wouldn't downplay this. So that's crazy, guys. Sorry, that's crazy, guys. Let's see what the recent posts say that were giving condolences to her. Because right when she posted this, people seem to be very insensitive and accusatory. That's sad. This person says she took her own life today. All those in the comments who bullied her, made fun of her, and made light of her situation and issues should be deeply and utterly ashamed. This person says, I don't believe she took her life. She was murdered. That's what they think. By the most powerful people on earth, like the royal family, the Clintons, and other pedos who visited Espstein's Island. I don't know if I believe that because, again, if they wanted to take her out, they should have did it years ago. It just seems like that to me was not a reason. I mean, that was not. I don't think they came there to Australia to find her and take her out. I don't think so. That's my opinion. Okay. Somebody said they don't believe she was the one who wrote this. They said all you trolls should be ashamed of yourself. Rest in peace, Virginia. I'm so sorry the world failed you. This person says these comments are weird. Are you all pedophile supporters? Don't you know they unalive people who speak out? I bet she won't be here soon. Oh, they wrote this 3 weeks ago. This is sad. She said, I bet she won't be here soon. And that's terrifying. As they say, no good deed goes unpunished. Thank you, Virginia, for your bravery and coming forward. And my biggest wish, mother to mother, is you get to see your babies again. Wow. That was 3 weeks ago, guys. She was alive. Reading these comments after learning about her recent passing is very sad. That's sad, guys. They said some people think she was taken out. This is sad. This person says, looks like a setup, especially since she hasn't addressed this at all. Looks like an AI photo. She's been hacked. Kidney failure, now dead by taking her life. This doesn't add up. People are questioning this story. This is sad. This person's crazy. Is she still dead? Like, this is horrible to say that. Rough night drinking, huh? She didn't fight. This is crazy to write this. Wow. She didn't fight so hard. She took the money and ran. If she wanted justice, she would have gone to court. Not true. These people don't understand law and courts. The judicial system wants you to settle. So most of the time, these cases do settle out of court. So a lot of people who lack the knowledge of that don't understand that. Okay, this is a very important post here that I did want to read to you guys. This person says, I work in nephrology for 8 years. 1, even in kidney failure, they can't give you an exact date of when you will die if you decline dialysis. 2, unless you have other conditions such as the inability to fluid shift due to blockage of your carotid artery, then you can have dialysis. I've only seen this happen twice in my career, and both have severe heart failure. If it was this desperate, they would likely be offering you a kidney transplant. If you were in full renal failure, they would have you on continuous dialysis in the hospital. Maybe you are refusing dialysis, but people don't die from kidney failure unless they stop dialysis. They can and do die from complications of other things that can cause a person to end up on dialysis, such as being diabetic, congestive heart failure, and non-compliance to their dialysis treatment. So this woman, or this person right here, gave really good points that refuted her story that she was dying from kidney failure. There had been so many allegations going around about this girl. But to me, I feel like, in my opinion, is that this was a fabricated story, and she used it as an opportunity to say goodbye to people, because I think she had already been suffering depression and she wanted to take her life. Because look at this right here. Right here, she posted on March 22nd a post about her children. These are her kids. She had lost custody of her kids during this messy divorce, and they were taken from her and now living with her father. Living with her ex-husband, the father of the kids, their father. And there was a restraining order against her from being able to see her kids. And her kids, she felt, had been brainwashed by the father, who had been telling the kids really negative things about her. So let's read what she says. She says, my beautiful babies have no clue how much I love them, and they're being poisoned with lies. See, so she felt like her ex-husband, who she's going through this messy divorce with and being, suffering a restraining order, had been lying to her children, saying negative things about her. She said, I miss them so very much. I have been through hell and back in my 41 years, but this is incredibly hurting me worse than anything else, which is right here where I'm telling you, this is when she reached her breaking point and had already started down this mindset of taking her life. Okay. She said, hurt me, abuse me, but don't take my babies. You see this? This is what really ended her life, losing her kids and them feeling as though she doesn't love them and that she's restrained from seeing her kids. That's so sad. She said, my heart is shattered, and every day that passes, my sadness only deepens. This is sad. This is what they said. Now she has ended her own life. This poor lady has been through hell and back. Her poor children, rest in peace. That's sad. They said parent alienation should be a crime. The emotional damage to the children by the other parent will take a lifetime to overcome. Most judges do not allow this to occur unless being around both parents is detrimental to their overall health. A good judge will not alienate a parent unless absolutely necessary to protect the children from harm. This person said, she said that her husband was wonderful and supportive of all these 3 years. What the hell happened? They said, didn't you say you would be dead in 4 days? Did Prince Andrew, oh Lord, these people are sick. What they say? What happened to your husband? Who is taking them from you? This person said, what do you need? I grew up in Sydney. Father of those kids sound like a real piece of shit. They're going to hate him for the rest of their lives. He's hurting her. He's not hurting her. He's hurting them too. And this person said her kids are going to regret taking their violent father's side. Oh my God. And abandoning their mother who loved them so much. Maybe not immediately, but soon enough. And they will never have her back after the realization hits. Oh my God. There's so many allegations that she was being abused. This is crazy, guys. I don't know how Australia law works. But my question is, why did she have a restraining order against her? What really happened? Did the abusive husband lie and say that she was the abuser? I don't know. It's like so much questions surrounding that situation. They said, as a mother, this woman says, as a mother, I can't imagine. I'm sorry. I wonder if you guys can see this. Yeah, there it is right here. This is sad, guys. This is sad. We can read these all day, but that one, this woman was a good woman. Look at this post that she posted here. It's very sad. It says, a therapist said that sometimes being a loner is a trauma response. You're so used to people you love not showing up for you or walking away. You may have grown up in a toxic environment that the only one you could depend on was you. So you naturally feel safe when you're alone. And she said here, yep. And people were like, and this was 3 weeks ago. Oh, 8 weeks ago. Sorry, 8 weeks ago. Wow. So this woman was all alone in her depression. And look at these people are saying, this bully right here says, stop with the victim BS. You are a perpetrator. You traffic women and you got away with it. But guess what? We all see through you. You should be in prison. Just because you were 17 and pretended to be 18 doesn't give you the right to hurt people. So this is what people are saying. That's sick, right? And she was a victim, in my opinion. She was preyed upon and she was manipulated. Of course she did, because she didn't know what she was doing. You know, she was being forced into that, right? So some of these people's posts are very disturbing. She obviously was a good advocate for people. She even advocated for another victim of abuse here who was suffering from cancer. She said, please help young family in their darkest hours. If you can afford, donate, please. There was a family who was suffering from cancer. The woman was. So she did a lot for people. So this is just all very sad. Let's take a look at what BBC News had to say about this tragedy. But this woman just suffered so much. It's so sad. And how cruel people were to her.
Giuffree, who accused Prince Andrew of sexual assault, has died. Her family say that she took her own life at her home in Australia. She was 41. Last month, it was reported she'd been in a serious car crash. She claimed disgraced financier Giuffree Esptein and his friend Ghislaine Maxwell had trafficked her when she was 17. Prince Andrew denied all the accusations against him, but reached an out-of-court settlement with her in 2022. Katie Watson reports.
Virginia Giuffree was one of the most prominent accusers of Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced US financier accused of running a vast sex trafficking network. Giuffree claimed she was trafficked by him and forced to have sex with the Duke of York. This photo of them together, now infamous. Prince Andrew, though, has always denied the accusations. He reached an out-of-court settlement with her in 2022 that contained no admission of liability or apology.
Right, and Prince Andrew tried to claim up and down that he was so innocent, but if he was so innocent, why would you reach over millions and millions of dollars of a settlement? So that just showed his consciousness of guilt right there.
In an interview with Panorama in 2019, she stood by the accusations.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth.
In a statement, Virginia Giuffree's family said she was a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and sex trafficking. She was the light that lifted so many survivors. In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight. We know that she is with the angels. Born in the US.
And I know they want to blame it on the trafficking. That was one of the many things that she had been suffering. She had suffered, abuse when she was fostered, because she was a foster child. Then she went on to suffer abuse with the Espteins. Then she got with a husband in Australia who was abusing her allegedly, or some type of abuse was going on there because there's court records claiming that. Then this man who is powerful in Australia goes and takes her kids, her ex-husband. Now he has sole custody. He's manipulating, and he has a restraining order against her. So who knows what was being said about this girl? There's just so much things that she had been suffering. It was more than just her history of abuse, because even she mentioned in her social media post, she's like, hurt me, abuse me, do all those things, but taking my kids away from me, that's like taking her soul. That was her final last straw. She lost her mind.
US, the 41-year-old had recently been living with her children and husband close to Perth, but recent reports suggest the couple had split after 22 years of marriage. Early this month, she posted on Instagram to say that she'd been seriously injured in a car accident, which her family later said she had not intended to make public. Local police later disputed the severity of the crash. Western Australia police say they are not treating her death as suspicious. Katie Watson, BBC News in Sydney.
So yeah, this story all around it, guys, is so sad and so traumatic. A woman who suffered 41 years of pain and suffering, and then at the end lost 3 of her symbols of hope, her 3 children. It's just very sad, and may she rest in peace. And the story really is a light to all of us that people are suffering around us. We never know what people are suffering. So be kind to people around you. It's sad that people online were cruel to this young woman. They continually said horrible things to her on social media that further caused her to suffer. And I want to go over some of the comments here, because a lot of you make valid points like, hi, Tavia, how are you doing, love? She said, very suspicious. Did she actually do it? There's so many questions around her death, Miss Jones. I mean, my underlying suspicion is, there were motives for her husband to take her life, but I really think she took her life. Honestly, because number one, the post that she did on March 30th, which was a fabricated story that she had been suffering kidney failure and all these things, and posted this fake picture of her with makeup on appearing to be in the hospital, which all turned out to be questionable and fabricated. It shows me that was her last plea on this earth. She wanted so bad to tell people goodbye, but she didn't know how to tell people that she was going to take her life. And she knew that if she had outright came out and said that, when she wasn't actually planning to do it that day on March 30th, that people would intervene, put her in a crazy home, try to prevent her from doing that. So she didn't want to alarm people. So she did it in a way that covered up her underlying intent. In my opinion, March 30th, she had already made up her mind that she was going to take her life, because she had lost 3 of the most cherished people in her life, which was her kids. She was facing court criminal charges for a violation of restraining order, which would further prevent her from ever having access to her children. She felt like her children were being brainwashed. by her abuser. In my humble opinion, she thought, I don't know who was abusing who in that marriage, but there was domestic violence claims in that marriage. So I think she had lost her hope and was already planning to leave, but she was trying to settle her affairs. So during her last days, she wanted to say goodbye to people, and she tried to cover it up by using this bus accident as an excuse. And during her last final days, she tried her best to make contact with her kids to say her final goodbyes. She spent time with her brother. So it's telling me that she had already been planning this. This woman kind of went into a very dark, period of her life. Alicia Renee makes a good point. She says the prince claims he never met her. Of course he would say that, I guess. Exactly, Alicia. A lot of these predators out here were lying and lying and lying, claiming they never met her and all this BS. But in reality, they did meet her, and they wouldn't have settled and paid millions of dollars if it wasn't true. And I like what Alicia says. Alicia says, never tell the public you're depressed. They make terrible comments. Exactly. The public can be so cruel and so evil. So evil. And as you can see in her social media, a lot of them continued to say horrible things that drew her more and more down a road of depression and hopelessness. So social media is not a place to seek therapy. I always say, cry out to God, go to your therapist. There's other factors to deal with deal with depression, but definitely not social media, because people online are not your friends, and they don't care about you because they too are suffering and dealing with their own trauma. And so it won't help you at all. It will more so hurt you. Christina, hi, Christina, love. She gave a good point. She said the bruises are giving battered wife. I have to say, you bring up a good point. I mean, the question is, are these bruises real? And if they are real, that's a good point. It could give battered woman syndrome. A lot of times when women are abused, they will blame it on everything else but their abuse. So yeah, that is a good point that you bring up. And that could have possibly been, she might have been abused by him, maybe. Christina says, why settle if the photo was fake? Exactly. Why settle if the photo was fake? The bus driver never settled, actually. He never paid out anything. He more so paid $2,000 to repair the car. He didn't actually pay for any physical injuries. So he basically said there was like $2,000 worth of damage to the car. I don't know why this isn't allowing me to go back to that photo, guys, for some reason. I'll just go here and go here. Something weird. So he never settled. He only more so settled to repair the car. So, but at the same time, regarding the trafficking charges, Prince Andrew did settle, and he paid millions of dollars to silence her in 2022. So that tells me he obviously was involved in this situation and wanted to hush her up because she kept talking about it, basically. Oh, okay. So Lakeisha, hi, love. She said the legal system, there seems to be male identified bias. Just an observation. You know what? That's true. As sad as it is, girl. As sad as it is. And I wonder how the law was in Australia. I really do, because I feel like, he is an Australian. He knows how the criminal system works. I'm not sure if Robert Giuffree, her ex-husband, had money and influence. And he probably lied on this woman, which is why he was successful in getting some type of restraining order. But again, I don't know what who was abusing who, because there are criminal charges out and allegations of domestic violence. It's just unclear about who was abusing who. So this story is so sad, you guys. May, beautiful Virginia, rest in peace, guys. Just want to say your life matters on this earth. Please seek therapy, seek help. We all love you. We all want you to survive. This is just so sad and tragic. May she rest in peace. And we do thank her for her advocacy against predators like Jeffrey Epstein. I feel like if she hadn't spoke out, Jeffrey Epstein would have continued to have more victims. So she really was, in a way, a hero to save future victims. All right, guys, take care. Let me know what you think about this. Like, comment, and subscribe, and have a lovely evening.